Hello, and bienvenidos to Pica Poco Kitchen. Today we're making tamales in plantain leaves. Vámonos! Not just in Mexico, but throughout Latin America, plantain leaves are used to make tamales. In Mexico City, we commonly call these tamales tamales oaxaqueños or tamales from Oaxaca. But it is important to note that 12 out of the 32 states in Mexico use plantain leaves to make tamales. These states are, of course, Oaxaca. We have Chiapas, Veracruz, Puebla, San Luis Potosí, Guerrero, Nayarit, Colima, Veracruz, Querétaro, Hidalgo, and Tabasco. And each state, of course, uses different ingredients to prepare these tamales. So, therefore, the tamales that I'm making today will have no denominations, but they will give you the basis for you to start making your own. So, with nothing else to say, let's go. This is a plantain leaf, and that makes me a green banana, or at least my humor is. I actually believe this is either half or a quarter of a plantain leaf. But what is great about them is they have low porosity, which makes them great for cooking. They create a hermetic environment so your food gets hotter without releasing liquid, but also it prevents the steam from the outside to penetrate your food, preserving the flavors. Plantain leaves have many uses, not just for cooking. In Asia, they're used in the preservation of some foods due to its antibacterial qualities. And in Mexico, these leaves are also dried and processed to be woven into textiles that then are later made into crafts like hats and baskets, bags. So great, these banana leaves. And you can find them in your everyday store in the freezer section. Sometimes they will come pre-cut and prepared, or they might come just like this one. But it is really not hard to make them work for you to whatever needs you have. To make the tamales, we need to cut them in pieces and prepare them. The prepping of the banana leaves is just introducing them to some sort of heat, so which that can be a fire. You can run them very lightly over fire, or soak them in a little bit of warm water for a few minutes, and they will be pliable enough to work with. So let me show you how to make mine. Here you have two examples of sizes that would work well. And this is going to be the folding that we're going to do once we have the filling ready. So take that in consideration when deciding what size you want your tamales to be. It is really up to you. The main foldings are going to be towards the veins in vertical. This is one of the leaves that still has the midrib. So I'm going to take some kitchen shears and cut it off. The slight change of colors in the leaves happens when we expose them to heat, either fire, a hot pan, or warm water like in my case. This ensures your leaf won't break and it's easy to manipulate. Now you can dry them and set them aside. The masa making process is going to be fairly similar to when we did our corn husk tamales. The difference between these two kinds of tamales is the overall texture. The plantain leaves allows for a smoother, flatter texture, whereas the corn husk tamales are spongier. This difference also comes from the leavening that is used to make them. Traditionally, the plantain tamales are leavened with a mineral called tbsp, which comes in the form of a rock that you dissolve and add this liquid to your masa without the sediments. But to be honest, I didn't buy tbsp because I'm not going to use it that often and I don't want it to go to waste. But also to show you that you can substitute it for baking powder. The amount is just going to be less than what it would be to make the corn husk tamales. The ratio of your lard is going to be more or less 1-3. I'm going to use 1.5 cups of lard to 3.5 cups of masa harina. I've told you before that these both harinas are pretty much the same. The only difference comes to the grinding of it. Is the same ingredient, the same process. The tamal masa it's gonna be coarser, and the tortilla masa it's gonna be finer. So it's up to you, whichever you have or whichever you prefer. I'm gonna show you in the close up the smooth or small difference of both harinas. I'm gonna hydrate my masa with chicken broth. You can use the one that you're gonna use to cook the chicken that you're gonna use for the filling. And of course, salt. So I'm not sure if the camera is gonna pick up as well the difference. This is the flour to make tamales, and it definitely feels more coarser. On the other hand, the flour to make tortillas is much more finer, and if I press it with my fingers, it holds the shape a little bit. One is gonna take more liquid than the other, so it's up to you whichever you want to use, and whichever you feel more comfortable using, it's gonna be fine. I beat up the lard until it's nice and fluffy, and I'm gonna set it aside when I'm ready to add it on. Start by hydrating your flour. It's always nice to start with 2 cups of your chicken broth, work it out, and add as you need. To get to this point, I added 3 cups of my chicken broth. Now I'm gonna add the lard in 3 parts, and once that's done, I'm gonna season it. Add your salt and taste it. It should be salty. Mix your baking powder well. If you're planning to use tequesquite, it should be already dissolved, and you can add it alongside your broth. Add an extra cup of broth and do your final doughing. Now your dough is ready, so you can cover it and let it rest until we finish everything else. For my red tamales, I'm gonna make a sauce that is similar that the one that it's used to make tamales huastecos. And for that, you're gonna need 1 Guajillo chile. This is the dried form of the Mirasol pepper. 2 Ancho chiles, which is the dried form of poblano peppers. And 1 Morita. This is gonna be to make it a little bit spicy. And this is a dried and smoked jalapeno in its dried form. I'm gonna use 1 garlic clove, a small piece of onion, a quarter of a big one or half of a small onion, and 1 cup of grape tomatoes, but you can use 1 Roma tomato. I cleaned my peppers, but without being very particular. I'm gonna toast them both sides until the skin starts to blister. As you can see, I left the morita with seeds and all. That will make my sauce a little bit spicy. In the same pan, add a little bit of oil to fry your garlic and onion. To my toasted peppers, I'm gonna add a little bit of boiling water so they're easier to blend. And now roast your tomato or tomatoes. And everything goes inside your food processor. I like to blend the onions, garlic, and peppers first with just a little bit of water to make sure it's gonna be well pureed. Then I'm gonna add the tomatoes and finish blending. And for the rest of my tamales, I'm gonna use mole. To prepare it, I'm gonna use a third of a cup of my homemade mole paste, which I made in last week's video. So if you haven't watched it, go check it out. I'm gonna add to that 2 tablespoons of brown sugar because I want it sweeter, and 1 cup of chicken broth. Let's make it. Dissolve your mole paste in 1 cup of chicken broth until it's nice and smooth. Clean all the splatter and then add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. You could use piloncillo if you have it. And now we're ready to assemble the tamales. It's gonna be a similar process that when we did the ones with the corn husk. There should be a shinier side of your leaf. The dull side goes facing up. I'm gonna use a cookie scoop and an offset spatula to spread the dough. I'm gonna do so thinly and wide. Once your dough is ready, add a generous amount of your sauce, then your chicken, and extra sauce. If you rather, you can mix your mole and your chicken and add it all at once. Fold the sides in overlapping each other and following the leaf veins. Now with the side of your hand, squeeze the dough to the center and fold the excess leaf to the back, tucking in one another for better seal. And here it goes one more time so you can see it again. I like to use a little ribbon of leaves just to distinguish different fillings in my tamales. My tamalitos are ready. My tamalitos are ready, and the only thing I need to do is cook them. I'm gonna use my big pot with a little bit of water and my steaming baskets, which may come in different forms. I'm gonna do a tia hack that I didn't do last time, which is to add a couple of coins at the bottom of my pot, and the clickety clacky is gonna tell me that the water is fine. If I stop hearing them, then I'll need to add more water to the bottom of my pot. So let me show you up close how to stack them. Using your basket, measure how much water you're gonna need. It should barely touch the bottom of your basket. To protect the bottom tamales, I'm gonna use some extra leaves. Place all your tamales horizontally with the folding side down. Once all your tamales are in, add other leaves on top and a piece of cloth just to trap in all the steam. Cover your pot and take it to the stove for 1 hour and a half. Depending on the amount of tamales, it might take longer. And of course, you can use your pressure cooker. That will take around 45 minutes. Oh, and of course, don't forget those coins. And in my opinion, the best pairing for this kind of tamales is a good old café de olla, which I've already made. Mm, and it's delicious. But let me show you how amazing this looks. I absolutely adore these pieces of dough that get stuck to the ends. Mm. Mm. And my personal favorites are mole. I don't know why. They're honestly all delicious, but I am peculiar like that. So depending on the husk or the leaves, I have a preferred one. But this one, oh my god, let's see. It's gonna be piping hot, I can tell it. Mm, so good. These tamales are smoother. They melt in your mouth. If you haven't tried them, please give them a go. I believe they're a little bit easier than the husk tamales, or at least less messy when preparing them, and also when stacking them in the pot. So just let me know if you give them a try. But please, 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 if you do, share them with your friends, just like this video. Like, subscribe, and be notified. And for more, follow me on the socials. Adios, amigues.